Hi, I'm Mario Evon, and you're listening to Talk Truth, a weekly edutainment podcast discussing the things that most people are afraid to, but from a Jamaican perspective. From relationships, sex and sexuality, to the ins and outs of entrepreneurship, in this space we speak about almost anything with the intention to inspire, educate, entertain, and create a fair and balanced space where your truth shall become your power and set you free. Yo family, what is going on? It's episode number 41 and I'm back. Yeah, you thought I was gone, right? Well. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm well. And I've missed you guys. I've really missed you guys. And this episode is about why I've been gone for so long. And I title this episode Burnout, Break, and Realignment. And I really just wanted to talk about those three things and about what that meant to me in this last break. And maybe some of you have been going through the exact same thing. So between my first season and my second season, of course, I would have been experimenting with a podcast for the very first time. I had no idea how long to take a break for, or if I even needed to take a break. Some podcasters literally just go week to week, and they just record episode after episode and just please their wonderful fans weekly. But that commitment is really hard. And in my first season, I had a nice round number of 20. But when you think about 20 episodes and what it's like to contact 20 guests, all right, there's some solo episodes. Let's say contact 15 guests to organize interviews. At that time, they were being done pre-COVID, so they were in person. Just ensuring that happens week to week for an episode to be posted is a huge commitment. So between season 1 and season 2, I took a break. And that break turned out to be around 3 months. So in my mind, I decided, 3 months is a reasonable time to take a break. Between season 2 and this season 3, I'm like, all right, 3 months. And 3 months really should have ended in September 2020. So my very first season 3 episode should have been the first Sunday in 2020. And we are now in November. And really, what happened was that when the pandemic hit in March, I was in towards the end of season 2, and I don't know what overcame me. I just thought that I needed to be present, and I thought, wow, people are at home, people are quarantined, they need to be distracted. I'm a solopreneur. I'm Mario Evon. I need to show presence. I need to be around. People need to know where I am. I need to use this break. I need to use this opportunity to have people see me. You know, that's kind of like the business marketing mind working. So podcast is going on, life is going on, work is going on. Came up with Song Association with me, another project that involves guests and being physically present, even though most times only for half an hour on a Sunday night, being present on an IG live, which means that I have to show up. Committed to 10 episodes of Song Association with me. They're going great. I feel good. I'm being noticed. I'm being seen. Yay. But in all of this, I am burning out. I'm burning out rapidly. And it's tricky, you know. As a pathological solopreneur at times and very serious about my word and commitment, I always show up. Once I agree to something, I always almost genuinely and generally solidly follow through. As getting new followers, as being discovered by new people, genuine supporters, sending me DMs, thanking me for being distracted in the pandemic and everything else that was going on. I mean, even Tammy Chin Mitchell, who was a guest on Song Association, she said, Mario, this is a really good product. She's like, you should ride it till the wheels drop off. And when I heard it, I thought, yo, Tammy's right. Ride it till the wheels drop off. But seems like my wheels fell off first, and I struggled in deciding how many more episodes to do. I was like 10 songs, 10 words, 10 seconds, and 10 episodes. There would be no riding until any wheels fell off, but people wanted more because they liked it. When are you coming back? I had to stop and I asked myself, Mario, can you mentally do any more episodes of anything? Talk Truth, Song Association with me, anything while you're starting to feel so detached. And I mean, in the end, it wasn't a hard answer. My answer was no. And this was where I was pretty much sure that what I was experiencing was burnout. And for those of you who do not know what burnout is, one of the definitions is that it's a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. Granted, I didn't feel stressed out per se, but I did have a lot of things that I was juggling by myself. And it occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. Eventually, you may feel like you have nothing more to give. When I found this definition, it came from helpguide.org. I was very connected to it because these were exactly all the feelings I was having. I felt overwhelmed, showing up and trying to show up. I felt emotionally drained, and I didn't feel like I could meet these demands anymore. I couldn't care less if anybody else wanted one more song association. I wasn't going to be the one doing it. And I felt like I had nothing more to give. And I had to take a break. So I embarked on an epic break. And this is the break that I call my realignment. And the definition of realignment is to put back into proper order or alignment, because clearly me did malalign. Clearly my wheels did fall off. Clearly my mind was burnt out and I didn't know my body, everything, and I didn't know how to respond. And many people push through in burnout, but it never usually ends very well. So I took the break and I had to do a bunch of things, many of which weren't necessarily pre-planned, but somehow I knew that I would have to start to pull away from everything that I was doing. So some of the things that I had to do to realign included, I turned off all my notifications, off of all of my apps. Everything that was telling me I needed to come and check on it, I turned it off. WhatsApp, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, everything that wanted to be checked on, I decided that I was going to be the one that directed that checking versus it directing me. I took a break from the podcast, which should have been 3 months, and I took a break from Song Association indefinitely. I had all these tentative dates in my mind as to when I'd return. September for Talk Truth, maybe a shorter break for Song Association because the pandemic was still going on and people needed it. You know, I was deciding that they had to have it. And I just didn't find the energy to come back. So strangely enough, right as I was taking a break, a friend of mine named Mezan, who has been a guest on this podcast, sent me this broadcast message. Well, it wasn't for everybody. It was just for select people, where she was having us embark on a Deepak Chopra 21-day meditation around the topic of abundance and learning about meditation. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. I told her, sure, enroll me. I'm on. And enrolling just meant that she would send us these tasks that we had to do for 21 days straight in a group chat, and we would have to indicate when we finished each day, and also at some point kind of explain how the experience was making us feel. Started out pretty unusual because I had never really meditated properly before, and I was starting to learn all of the features of meditation, like breathing and just how you enter the meditation and come out of the meditation, connecting to breath, trying not to be distracted while you're sitting with your legs folded, and trying not to have sounds and other things creep into your thoughts. So this whole idea of being fully present in a moment and focusing on the now was a little silly at first. But as I continued to develop my practice, I realized that I started to see and hear things that I had never seen or heard before. I've been telling the story about how I went on a walk one morning because I started to exercise at home because the gyms were like close and open and close and open. And I remember one day I was walking back down the hill heading back to my house, and I saw some birds perched on an electric line, and they were so loud to me, like I could actually hear them chirping. And not only could I hear them chirping, it was like everything else except for them became silent, and I could count them. I was counting them. I was very aware of them. It was like 5, 6, 7 birds on a line. It was so surreal that all of a sudden this one specific thing just became glaringly loud, and I could only attribute it to the meditation, because I was now able to be present and feel that presence in a real way. And it was fascinating to me. And I found that days after that, this was generally how I felt. There were just always these moments where I just had this very conscious feeling of the warmth of the sun on my skin, on hearing the waves when I was at the beach. Every sensation and every sense was kind of at its maximum stimulation. You know, you would smell things. You just weren't floating through life kind of worrying about what's next to do. You were actually kind of really enjoying things as they happened, and it was fascinating, and I started to feel more relaxed. I definitely upped my exercise. I would be walking where I live or elsewhere. I spent more time with my family and with my friends, just enjoying them. And I just wasn't concerned about what was coming next. I wasn't planning anymore. And I wasn't occupying my mind with setting schedules and dates. I just decided that I was going to chill. And in all actuality, the questions I asked myself is, what's the worst that could happen if I take a longer break than people expect? Matter of fact, do they even have an expectation? Because I didn't tell them when I was coming back anyway. So actually, the handle was mine to hold. I didn't have anybody to run back to. I didn't promise them anything. And even if I did, I still had the power and the control to decide that I wasn't ready to come back. And isn't that life anyway? That's life. Things happen that sometimes throw you off of your schedule. So I decided to protect me, take care of me, and the rest would just have to unfold as life would have it. And in a nutshell, the only way I could explain how I felt was, my reasoning was that I was present enough to be felt where needed, but I was absent enough to not feel like I was losing my mind trying to be present. I want to say that one more time. I was present enough to be felt where needed, but absent enough to not feel like I was losing my mind trying to be present. Maybe it's a multi-potentialite problem. I don't know if you guys ever felt this way before or even during the pandemic, but please, if you do, hit me up and let me know if you were having any of these emotions. But I came to realize I wasn't alone. I came to realize there were a lot of other people who were going through some serious mental health breakdowns and issues because of this pandemic. Because we are hiding from a virus, we are having to wear masks, we're having to not see the people that we love, we're communicating digitally, virtually, video chats, and this is not what we're used to. And this hasn't happened in 100 years. And we don't know what we're doing. And we're trying to figure it out as it happens, and then trying to live with some normalcy while that happens. Bizarre. That's the only thing I can call it. Bizarre. And a few more things that I had to do, in this bizarre time to remain sane was journaling. I journal a lot, so I started to write more and generally just unplug. And the low-key beauty of this weird period is that because we're expected to be home by a certain time for curfew, or to just not be socializing, it created the same silence that was kind of driving me crazy, also created a special kind of space for me to actually tap into myself. And so it was like, finally now I'm seeing some benefit in this, as much as it low-key is tripping me out. I'm dancing in my living room on a Saturday to Fame Frequency, to get a little buzz of what a party used to feel like, but I'm doing it at home. I'm drinking at home. I'm doing all of these things that I would have normally done in the company of others without worrying about getting a viral illness that could potentially take me out. But now I'm doing all of this stuff at home. Everything is happening on Zoom or some other online video platform. And I'm literally at the point where if I see one more request for a video meeting, I'm going to smash my computer on the ground. I'm over it. Like, I'm done. And that still is the case right now. But the moral of this podcast, as I come back to season 3, and again, I've missed you guys so much, and I'm so happy to be back, because one thing I vowed is that I'll never stop doing podcasting. if it's one thing that I'm going to take all the way with me as long as I take my last breath, because I think that the value I've gotten from it in terms of communicating with people, networking, helping others, and most of all, helping myself has been so immense. It's like, it's my like a therapy session, and I'm happy that I have the opportunity to share in this space. But one of the most important points that I really wanted to get across in this episode, which I titled Burnout, Break, and Realignment, I wanted to talk to you about what are you doing to realign? What are you doing when you're feeling overwhelmed? Not just in a pandemic, but just in general. And more than anything, I wanted to emphasize the importance of not being too hard on yourself for taking a break. Because breaks are essential. It's like bodybuilding. When you're tearing those muscles for them to grow, the only way that they can grow is if one, they're fed nutrients, but two, you rest. Rest is like the next most important thing to bodybuilding apart from tearing those muscles, because that's the only way that the muscles can grow back and grow back stronger. And the mind and the body and the spirit and the soul works the same way. Had I not taken a break, I would have ended up in a worse place. And I couldn't feel guilty for taking a break, because I cannot pour from an empty cup. And people will always have demands of you. It's kind of like the corporate workspace. And I say the corporate workspace because entrepreneurship is a little different. In the corporate workspace, if you're an accountant and you die, they'll find a new accountant. There's some young buck who's coming up, ACCA accredited and ready to take your job. And as irreplaceable and amazing an accountant as you think you are, you can be replaced. And it's the same with everything else in life. Doctors, lawyers, barbers, and as morbid as that sounds, if somebody drops out that you need in your space, in your process, in your assembly line, you're going to find a replacement. Which brings me to the fact that you have to ensure that you take care of yourself as best as possible. And the conundrum, and I think maybe the part that's tricky is, imagine you've taken advantage of a pandemic and you've created all these products and you're shining and you're actually maximizing and you actually have results to show that this is working. At the top of your game in this moment, while you're making the most of your brand and growing it, you're at your lowest mentally. How ironic is that? How ironic is it that you are feeling like a piece of crap while you're out there performing? You know, it's like social media 101. It's like all these pretty pictures being posted on the gram and everybody looks so happy, and at the core people are unhappy. Nobody would have known that I was in this space where I wasn't unhappy, but I was not fully present. I was functioning. I was highly functioning too, and doing a good job of it. And I had to take a break. So the question is you have to ask yourself some hard questions, because what the break forced me to do was to not only find these different activities to realign, the exercise, the journaling, the meditation, the unplugging, but the silence also made me ask questions about my life. What am I doing next? Where am I going? What's my purpose? And I spent a lot of time really digging deep, not just spiritually, but I did all the atypical stuff. I like to read horoscopes sometimes. I looked at my life path number. I looked at my natal chart, and I put all of these pieces together because I had to see what all these different pieces of information were saying about me, the October 9 Libra gentleman, and what I was supposed to be doing, and if I was aligned. What are my qualities? What are the traits that the Myers-Briggs and all these things had said? And funnily enough, the stuff that's not traditional or not religious aligns perfectly with the stuff that is scientific and religious. Like all of it combines to say the same thing. It's kind of like you're creative, healthcare, kind, thoughtful. It's just amazing how all that information already exists. So I spent a lot of time looking at who I am to try and figure out why I'm here and who I want to become. And I did get a great deal of clarity in that space, even though it's never ever fully clear. So I want you to sit down and ask yourself these hard questions as well. I mean, pull up your natal chart. That's astrological, but you need your time and place of birth. And they're free ones online. Pop it in. You're going to be mind blown. You may not agree with everything that's said, but mine was just so precisely accurate as to the human I am. I was blown away. And really, to wrap up this first podcast, coming back into season 3, I just want you to remember that it's important to have a plan, and structure is amazing. But just remember that plans are made to be broken. Structure is only made to give you a guideline, a guide that you can reference. But it doesn't mean that the parts of the guideline, the parts of the plan are not movable, that they're concreted in. You should be able to shift a wall. You should be able to move a boundary, because life is not perfect and life is not a perfect plan. And things are going to happen that are outside of your control, like a global pandemic, at which point you're going to have to figure out a new way to approach it. And we're not going to use the P word, but to pivot. Yeah, we used it. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to find another alternative. So many of us have had to pivot this year because the year just threw us a curveball. And I mean, in my pivot, I was doing good, but my pivot burnt me out. So I have had to come up with new methods and new strategies to not allow myself to burn out again. But now actually I'm getting used to what it's like to live in a pandemic. So I've adjusted and I've changed over the past couple months. So now we're in a new phase of the game. So how we live in a pandemic is now becoming life as we know it. So guys, I am again happy to be back, and I can't wait to share the different stories this season 3. There's some other exciting things unfolding for the podcast that I cannot tell you just yet, but I will definitely let you know as soon as I can tell you. And just know that I'm here, I'm well, I'm missing you, and I'm just glad that I can be back here to speak to you. It's been a rough year with a lot of loss and a lot of tragedy and a lot of pain. But hopefully for most of you, there have been many lessons and a lot of insight into self, a lot of self-reflection, meditation, and just realignment. As per usual, please follow us on all socials. I am at Mario Evon as the individual, and the podcast can be found at talk.truthja, or just go to our website, talktruthja.com, and follow us everywhere. Subscribe to the podcast, leave a comment on Apple Podcasts, share it with a friend, and most importantly, click that subscribe button, share, encourage people to subscribe. You just listened to an episode of Talk Truth, a place where your truth shall become your power and set you free. Until next time, guys, blessed love.